What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take NFL DFS Wise stream. It's CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I'm joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG. Many of you know as Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 D's. Paulie, what's happening?
What's happening, man?
Ain't shit, man. Coming off of a very strange slate, right? A very strange week 10. We're going to cap off week 10 with a very strange game. So I guess the Monday Night Football game is kind of fitting to how the slate went. Shout out to D. Millie. I know D. Millie that he refers to it as the Hail Murray. Maybe other people do too. He's referring to it as the Hail Murray. But apparently the Hail Mary cost D. Millie 4K. It hurt me too. Like I was telling you, I was doing pretty well until the Diggs catch. Then I was breaking even, and then that happened, and I was just. But it wasn't the difference of $4,000 win. So D. Millie, we are checking on you to make sure you're okay. Paulie and CK, because we care about our members. We want to make sure D. Millie's okay.
Yeah.
Other than
He is, though.
he is. I see him in the chat.
I said he still won money, which, not many of us can say yesterday, which was just a shit show of a slate for me. I lost like 100% on FanDuel and 75% on DraftKings. But, I'm not that down about it. It's been a really good season for me. And, you can't just, pout and cry. You just got to move on. I'm a GPP player. Those things are expected. I probably should have had more losses so far, and I hadn't. And every season you're going to get a week or two like this, and that was one of them. Hopefully it's the last one this year, and I'm not going to let it fuck up an otherwise positive season. We're just going to do what we do and get back on it.
That's it. Same to you, D. Millie. Head up. And we just attack the next slate. And that's the thing you and I have talked about several times with football. In the context, we're used to everyday sports like baseball, basketball, and you have losing days like fairly often, right? Like you have winning days. Everything comes and goes quicker. The losing days come quicker. The winning days come quicker because you're playing every day. In a sport like NFL, you have a bad week and it feels like you've lost for 7 days. But in reality, there's just only one slate a week, like if you count the main slate. So if you didn't do well, keep your head up. Moving on to the next week. And, going to continue to do dirties. Like you said, Paul, I think we've had a very successful NFL season. We've had members win big. We've won big. I know you've had a lot of positive weeks from a win-loss perspective going into the week, which is tough to do in tournaments. It's one thing to get one big pop. It's another thing to consistently have a positive profit margin in multiple weeks throughout the season. Because like you said, man, it's like if you don't, if we have 16 weeks to work with, you don't play MLB DFS or NBA DFS and expect to win. Like you have to win all of your money in the first 16 days. Like it's just not the case. It's all about the grind of the season. In the NFL, we only get 16. What 17? I'm sorry, I keep saying 16. It's 16. Week 16, but 17 regular season games, I believe. And then you're in playoff mode, which you really only have 1 or 2, rounds of that. So. Keep your head up if you didn't do well. Hit the like button if you haven't already. If you're new to the channel, well, we're here to break down Monday Night Football. We're going to get in and do some dirties because, like Paulie said, short-term memory action. Moving on to today. And it's time to make the most out of this Monday Night Football game. Speaking of which, Paulie, we've got a 44 total. That's down from 44.5, but I do think that's actually up from 43.5 that I saw earlier. Vikings open up -2.5 up to -3.5. We know that the Bears are dealing with some injuries, which could have had something to do with why the line moved, or it could have just been some sharp money. I don't know. Either way, Vikings 3.5 point favorites on the road. We'll break it down into teams, and then we'll go into captains and value and all that good shit. Talk to me about the Minnesota Vikings.
Minnesota Vikings is all Dalvin Cook right now. I think that's the way you want to approach, the Vikings is by trying to get Cook. The Bears, a pretty solid D. I think they're better against the pass than the run, and Cook's going to get that volume. You want to try to get him into your lineups. It's really not that hard the way these, the pricing is. If you're going Cook, you're not going to really want a ton of Cousins and, the Vikings receivers. And those are the only other really pricey guys, with the exception of maybe like Allen Robinson, who you can get into a lineup with Cook as long as you're willing to eat some of the ugly Bears value. Um, Irv Smith is out, so like I don't mind taking a stab at one of the backup tight ends. Either what's the main guy's name? The guy's been there forever.
Kyle Rudolph.
Kyle Rudolph, will probably get more snaps, more goal line targets, but this guy Conklin, super cheap, and he's going to get a bunch of snaps as well. I think if you do want to play some of the receivers to get like contrarian, maybe the Bears jump out to a lead and they're forced to throw. I'm cool with that. I just think then you take Cook out, to differentiate yourself. I'm not really into Thielen. He has not done well against his team at all recently. I think I would go more to Jefferson and the tight ends paired up with the QB. Obviously, like the Bear, don't really like the Vikings defense, but I think they're viable, and I'm very cool with the kicker.
Yeah, starting with Dalvin Cook, who I expect to be the most popular, he's at least the headliner of this slate, right? He's the best player on the field. I have him in like 2 out of 3 teams. Only in one of them I have him as the captain. I like to call him my hedge team. But in reality, looking at his price and considering the matchup, I'm with you to a degree. I think that I prefer to spend up and get more of the players on the Chicago side. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but Minnesota's defense has been a lot more suspect than the Bears. The Bears have not been winning, but the defense has been pretty solid. Now, Dalvin Cook is well above average. Minnesota's done a good job of helping him be efficient. I don't think it's just him. I think a lot of it is him, but obviously his blocking is doing something to get him these holes and putting him in these situations. So I like Cook, but I'm not going to go overboard for the sake of trying to get a little bit different. And he's extremely expensive. So if I don't play him as much, or at least not in the captain, I could afford players that maybe a lot of people who are playing him heavy in that captain spot can't. But I will obviously roster him. Just it's a bet on talent type situation. I'm not that interested in the quarterback, Kirk Cousins, just not against Chicago. I'm with you on a Thielen Jefferson take, bro. I much prefer Justin Jefferson. In this situation, like you said, the history between these two teams, we've seen Thielen really struggle along with Cousins against the Bears, and we've actually seen Stephon Diggs have some decent games when he was here, which is that Justin Jefferson role. So I'm with you on that. I know he's had a couple down games, but I really don't care. I'm willing to do it. The kicker's obviously in play. I do like Kyle Rudolph quite a bit for value, just for the sake of he's so cheap. We should anticipate him, like you said, getting more snaps, and I think he's the one they prefer to throw it to, obviously, being that he's been in that role for quite a while. So that's where I'm at as well. Not interested too much in the defense either, though. We do understand the situation. We understand if those like them. Those out there who want to take a shot because of how bad the Bears' offense have been. I will say this about the Bears before we talk about the Bears. I know that Nagy did pass off the play calling. So I guess he was calling the plays. He's no longer doing that. He made this whole spiel about how they're in desperation mode. They have to win. No more bullshit. You can only do so much with the talent you got and the mind you have as a coach. With that said, talk to me about the Chi-Town Bears.
The Bears is where the slate's won. It's some tricky plays, I guess you'd call it, that you're going to have to decide between, right? Like, we got Montgomery out. So we got Ryan Nall, who's, nothing good at all, but he did have like 4 targets and caught all 4 last week and probably going to get the bulk of the snaps. They did just bring up Lamar Miller, who's $200, brought up yesterday. So I don't know how much practice time he's had, if any, but, I think they're going to use him, and he's $200, right? Then at receiver, you got, obviously Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Anthony Miller, but Cordell Patterson, on top of returning punts and our kicks, he's probably going to get some carries. They've, moderately involved him in the pass game and the run game all season long, with Montgomery being out. You would expect that to increase dramatically as well. He is dealing with some kind of, lingering injury, but, he practiced. I think he has a chance to lead the team in carries today, as crazy as that sounds. And it's which one, why we play a lot of lineups. Then it's like, what is the game script? Minnesota's decent against the run, horrible against the pass, right? So, like, Allen Robinson stands out. Darnell Mooney stands out. pairing Nick Foles with them. Obviously, not really that interested in Jimmy Graham, but he's in a good spot, and his red zone work's been good. Cool with the kicker, cool, very cool with their defense. With Showdown, you're just building game scripts, right? Like, all right, if the Bears lead this game, how does it go? Right? It's probably lower scoring. They get it done through the air, and then the Vikings are forced to throw. So, you build it accordingly. If the Vikings lead, it's probably because Cook goes off, and then the Bears are forced to throw once again. And, you pair that up with the receivers and the Bears quarterback. So, how do you think the game goes? I think this is a game where you could play two defenses, two kickers, those kind of builds where it's like low scoring. There's a few ways I could see this thing going. I don't think either defense is all that good. I think the Bears really haven't played a ton of guys this year that are, a ton of teams that are that good. When they have given up points. They give up 26 to the Saints, 24 to Tennessee, 24 to the Rams, 30 to Atlanta, 26 to Atlanta. But I don't know if the Vikings are as good as those teams. Here today, it's in Chicago, windy, cold, whatnot. So I think we're aimed for a more lower scoring type of game. And, I don't know. I think you're going to want one defense in there. I think you're going to want one or both kickers in your lineup. You only get 6 spots, so it'll be interesting. I think you can certainly leave a lot of money on the table. That helps you differentiate in some of these large field tournaments. But I'm really into the Bears pass game. I think it's Robinson, Mooney, Cordero Patterson with the quarterback. And I'm willing to take shots on Lamar Miller for the $200 because I think that they will game plan him a handful of touches, and at $200, that's all you really need.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, man. I get the same mindset coming in, and you and I really haven't talked about the game, but I agree that the Bears is where you expect to win the slate, getting them right, and like I was saying before, they're just, you want to spend more for these skill players. Allen Robinson was on the field warming up along with Cole Kmet, according to one of the Bears beat writers I saw on Twitter. So we expect them to play. We already expected Robinson to play the way. We've seen receivers do what they want, man. Adams, there's been a slew of them. We can go on a list, but there's been a slew of receivers who have been able to do whatever they want against this Minnesota defense. We know they're not good. We would think that the Bears know it's in their best interest to feed A-Rob. We would think that. So obviously I like him as a captain. I like Nick Foles because of the fact that they don't have a running back, and we may see them have to rely on passing more in general. So I do like Foles. Jimmy Graham, you can make a case for, but I kind of prefer to spend on Darnell Mooney. Both of these teams have been bad against tight ends, so I like Rudolph obviously because he's cheap. Jimmy Graham is 7-2. Anthony Miller and Mooney are just as viable to me, and they're a little bit cheaper. Plus, I feel like I can cheat a little bit. We don't know for sure if he's ruled in. He's been dealing with a groin injury. I know he was on the field trying to practice with A-Rob, trying to see if he could play. But if Cole Kmet does get ruled in, $800 on DraftKings, I don't mind taking a shot at him for value. Not necessarily playing him just to play him, but if I needed that, if it worked out that way where I had a team I liked with all these Bear players that are expensive and I was left with him, I'd be okay just kind of leaning on that. Cordell Patterson, I have a hard time, and he could really burn me today. I only got 3 teams, obviously. What I do on the showdown, so he's someone that could hurt me if he's more utilized out of the backfield or he's just successful. But at 5,200, I found myself wanting to go up and get the other guys. Ryan Nail is another one I don't have a ton of. I know he got 4 targets last week once Montgomery got hurt, but they were also in a no-huddle, hurry-up situation. And they only had, I think, one other running back on the depth chart. So we don't really know. I agree with Paulie in that I think Lamar Miller is going to play a little bit more. And I do prefer Lamar Miller. I think he is one of the top value plays. I think he would be most likely to get the goal line attempts at least. If they're on the 1-yard line, I would think they're going to give it to Lamar Miller, who got hurt last season in the preseason and missed the whole season. But prior to that, was the starting number 1 running back for the Houston Texans. Not to say he was all that successful, but we could see it now. David Johnson's struggling. Duke Johnson struggled a little bit. The Texans just aren't really a big running team. But if he's got enough just to be that, we'll see what he can do with Chicago. Chicago hasn't looked like a running team either. And you have to wonder, is it because of the offensive line or is it because of David Montgomery? Today, we will find out. But yeah, which I think the Bears I like more. Because of that, I'm not as high on their kicker because I'm looking for them to score touchdowns. So I think I'm a little bit higher on Bailey between the 2 kickers. And the Bears defense, I agree. I don't think they've been terribly tested. I think you can score, so I'm not all that interested, but I would prefer them to the Vikings. I think they're a better defense than the Vikings for sure. And that's how I'm doing dirties. Talk to me about captains. Who are your favorite captains? Oh, you got my bad. You muted. I wasn't looking at the screen. I didn't even notice. My
Sorry.
bad. My bad.
No, my alarm thing was beeping. I didn't want that to look around. But it'd be A-Rob or Mooney with even Nick Foles. I think is captain viable, even though he doesn't do a ton of running, but like he could spread it around and ultimately end up being like the better play. Or Dalvin Cook. That's really the extent. I mean, I think a Bears defense is viable as well, but it's mostly A-Rob Mooney paired up with Foles, or Foles and the captain, or Dalvin Cook is where I'm looking to go.
Yeah, I got 3 captains. There's one I don't have that if I could, I wouldn't mind getting one. I mean, Mooney is probably 5 on that list. I'm good with Mooney, but I think A-Rob is number 1 for me. Nick Foles is number 2. Dalvin Cook is number 3. I call that my hedge squad. But that's the world. I mean, yeah. I mean, if there's one Viking that you think it could go out and do dirty today, it's Dalvin fucking Cook, because he could do it against anyone. I mean, look at his box score. I think in all the games he's played this year, his worst game was like a 17 on DraftKings. He's just fucking good. The one that, like, if I had an extra team, I would probably do a Justin Jefferson, just because I think that when he does he doesn't need like the volume, right? He's somebody that it could be 4 catches, but he can score a touchdown or 2, or a touchdown with 100-something yards. So he's somebody that, like, to get different, I wouldn't mind. And then Darnell Mooney would be the next one, like Paulie said, mainly because Mooney's cheap. And the targets have been there. The targets look good. The targets have also been there for Anthony Miller out of the slot. But I think that A-Rob, Foles, and Cook would be my favorite 3 as well. Like I said, Cook more of a hedge squad, but I expect him to be pretty popular in that captain. But yeah, I expect the Bears to be able to move the ball. With that said, we'll do some predictions on the over. Oh, no. Before I do that, give me your top 3 value plays.
All right. Bears D, Lamar Miller, Cordero Patterson.
Boom. I will go with Lamar Miller as well. I'll go with Cole Kmet. Tony A says that he's seeing that. Tony A in the YouTube chat, of course, our boy, always providing that info, says Kmet is active. Like I said, I know he was on the practice field, so I kind of expected that. So I'll say Kmet second, and then Kyle Rudolph at 3,400 for number 3.
I do really like Cole Kmet I believe in the talent, and I think like he'll be the starting tight end for this team next year, and I think he's like already sort of starting to emerge in their pass game before the injury. So I'm very cool with that too. Now that we know he's in.
Yeah, I'm with you. And even from a snaps perspective, Jimmy Graham's not playing all that many more snaps than Kmet is. I know it seems because Graham's getting the targets, and yeah, they design certain packages for Graham to get the ball. But I agree with you. I know Bears fans are really big on Kmet, man. Like, a lot of Bears fans are big on this dude. They think he's going to be a big part of the team. My brother-in-law won a Cole Kmet helmet. I was like, who the fuck's going to want that? Sure enough, he sold it, and who's buying it? Chicago Bears fans. That's who.
Of course.
Dub Bears. Dub Bears. All right, now we'll do some bets here. So we got we'll go off 44. I'm going off the line I see here. 44 is the over under Vikings bet. So over under 44.
Under.
I'm going under also, Paulie. I agree with you. Well, the Vikings are going to try to run. And the only way the Vikings really like push the tempo is if they have to, because they can't run, or because the opposing offense is pushing them because they're just lighting up the scoreboard. That's not really the Bears style, right? Like if you're picking out of a barrel, you're gonna settle what you got. Then yeah, like the Bears offense today. But when you compare them to other offenses in the league and how they've done against the Vikings, you just don't. We're not really expecting like these teams to go for 30 apiece, right? Like, I don't know. Not me. We'll go at 3.5 as the current line. Vikings minus 3.5 on the road. What do you think?
Vikings minus 3.5. I'll take the Bears.
I'm with you, bro. Yep, I'm going with the Bears. that hook is lethal to me. The hook is a big difference, but having the 3.5, if you can get to 3.5, I know not all books are offering it, but if you can get to 3.5, I think that half a point will go a long way because I could see this game being pretty close one way or another. That's gonna do it for us, nation. We appreciate y'all hanging out. Please hit the like button. See like 40 some of y'all in here and only 10 likes. That ratio is just not cool. Our projections are available for download. The ones you see on the screen are like little sample thing we put up for you guys. But our projections, if you want to download them, upload them to an optimizer that you use, are available for White Take Nation members. Tomorrow night, myself, Patio Joe, back with the first look for Week 11. Excited to move on, start a new week. We'll be back for Thursday Night Football as well. We got NBA coming up. NBA is coming up. We see the off-season transactions are made. We may do like an off-season NBA podcast just to kind of talk about a few things. I know there were a couple big things happening and some potential things in the future. Chris Paul just was traded today. So if you're an NBA fan, stay tuned. We should be doing some of that. And be a little bit more active as we roll, man. With one sport, we're not as active. Paulie and I are used to doing shows every day and hanging out with the nation. We've been recuperating, preparing, but we are ready for NBA to be here. We're going to put our packages up as well within the next week or so. So get real fucking excited for NBA, doing the streams, doing the dirties, making that money just like we do. And listen, we love football. This is not a knock to us. It's just football's once a week. If football was every single day, that I wouldn't need nothing else. You know what I mean? Wouldn't need it. Wouldn't need it.
Do that.
Paulie, anything in closing before we get up out of here?
Nope. Enjoy flash drafts tonight. Make your money back from last week. That's my plan at least. And we get it back next weekend for show.
Yes, sir. Those of you who participated in the listener leagues for FanDuel and DraftKings, we will review the contest tomorrow on the first look at the beginning of the show. Make sure you're there. I'll announce the winners, all that good shit. For Paulie D, for myself, the entire White Stick Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.